Welcome to the Love Story with Lisa channel. Today, we're bringing you a brand new story. I tore apart the marriage contract my elder sister chose for me, left safety behind at 14, I chose to enter the Imperial Palace. That year, when I entered the palace, I was only 14, my elder sister, Ing Shu, once asked me what kind of husband I wished to marry. I swung my embroidered shoes back and forth, acting spoiled in front of her. Jiao Jiao doesn't want to marry, does she? Not long after, Ing Shu fell gravely ill. Before her final moments, she arranged a marriage for marrying me to a minor official. Once I crossed his threshold, I would become the mistress of my own household. A quiet life, stable and secure, but I cried. I tore the marriage contract to shreds, climbed into a carriage, and entered the Imperial Palace. The selection of consorts had been temporarily postponed. The hall stood silent as death. It was all because the Empress was struggling against illness, yet she still had to witness someone like me, who should never have appeared here, mixed among the foolish group of candidates. Inside a side hall, Ing Shu trembled with anger. I obediently tried to soothe her chest, but she brushed my hand away. Jiao Jiao, go home. I will pretend none of this ever happened. I've already found you a suitable husband. Just wait peacefully to be married. I ask for nothing else. Only that you live safely and happily. She had poured her heart into arranging that marriage for me. The man was the secondary son of the Su family, an 8th-rank official serving as prefectural trade supervisor. All tribute goods sent from across the land had to pass through his office before entering the imperial stores. Though the position seemed minor, it was rich with opportunity. The betrothal gifts sent by the Su family were generous and sincere. With Ing Shu's influence, the Su family even promised that once I married in, I could live separately and manage my own household. She had done everything for me. How could I not think of her in return? I can't go back anymore. Before entering the palace, I personally went to the Su family to break off the engagement. You are gravely ill, and Yuan Yu is only 3 years old. How could I possibly leave at ease? You cared for me for 14 years. Now it's my turn to help you take care of Yuan Yu. Crown Prince Xiao Yuan Yu, the eldest son born to my sister. Ing Shu looked at me for a long time, then finally let out a soft sigh. Jiao Jiao. I only hope you won't regret this. She handed me a jade comb. I had prepared this as part of your dowry, hoping you and your husband would grow old together. Who would have thought? You would enter the palace instead. I accepted the box containing the jade comb. My expression solemn. I will not regret it. The selection continued. Ing Shu still loved me. Not only did she keep my nameplate, but a woman as just and impartial as she was even lowered herself to speak on my behalf to the emperor. Emperor Xiao Yiming glanced at me. Since the empress has spoken, then grant her the title of Marin. A Myron 5th rank. By the rules, the highest rank one could receive upon selection was only 6th rank Chiron. Ing Shu told me to give thanks. I had just begun to bow when she was seized by a fit of coughing. The emperor immediately ordered the selection to stop. He anxiously gathered Ing Shu into his arms and carried her away. There was panic in his voice as he commanded, "Summon the imperial physicians to Fengyi Palace." The other candidates were filled with envy. The emperor treats the empress so well. I heard that back then, the empress once saved him. He fell in love at first sight, even refused a marriage arranged by the late emperor, and insisted on marrying her. Amidst all the admiration, only Gu family's second young lady sighed. I truly envy Sister Ing Shu. You were the first to receive a rank and such a high one at that. When news spread that I had suddenly broken off my engagement, my father was so furious he nearly severed all ties with me. It was my stepmother who persuaded him otherwise. Worried that, as a concubine-born daughter, I had never seen the grandeur of the world, she immediately assigned me an experienced attendant, Zhu Mama. She had served in the palace for many years and had once personally taught Shu proper etiquette. Everything about her was excellent except for her constant reliance on seniority. At the slightest thing, she would say, "Little mistress must not behave this way." Shu's illness was incurable. She could not recover. The emperor abandoned court affairs, keeping vigil at Fengyi Palace, allowing the imperial desk to gather dust. Every imperial physician shook their heads in helplessness. In rage, the emperor had several of them beaten. He issued a decree across the land, seeking anyone among the common people who could cure the empress, promising high rank and great rewards. But Shu only grew weaker. When I went to visit her, I saw the emperor sitting by her bedside, carefully painting her portrait. Her face had already withered and lost its vitality, yet in his eyes, she remained as radiant as the day they first met. I could not bear to disturb him, so I stood quietly outside the door. The longevity crowns prepared by the Imperial workshop had yet to be fully set with Eastern sea pearls. Even the life-saving ginseng decoctions from the Imperial pharmacy could no longer preserve her life. The Empress Dowager, rushing day and night from a distant retreat, only managed to arrive in time for a final farewell. The Empress passed away. The entire harem was draped in white. Before the morning hall, the small, fragile figure of the crown prince, dressed in oversized mourning clothes, cried his heart out, "Mother. I want mother." That childish, grief-stricken voice tore at the heart. I suppressed my own sorrow and went to comfort him. When he had cried himself to sleep, I noticed, on the bedside table lay an exquisitely crafted mechanical toy sent by noble Consort Li, and a delicately carved food box, prepared with care, from Consort Liang. These past days, both the crown prince and I were immersed in grief, so much so that we failed to sense the turbulent undercurrents rising within the palace. All of it revolved around one matter: who would gain custody of the crown prince. Among all, the strongest contenders were noble Consort Li and Consort Liang. A rush of hurried footsteps sounded outside the hall. Zhu Mama lifted the curtain in alarm. Little mistress, little mistress. Consort Liang is gone." Gone, Consort Liang second only to noble Consort Li in rank. A woman of immense power and prestige. She had once conceived, only to miscarry, and ever since, her obsession with the crown prince had grown into something almost like an illness. No one had expected someone like her to suddenly take her own life. Her palace maids testified that before entering the palace, she had once loved someone who had waited for her all these years. Recently, she received news of his death, and in despair, chose to follow him. For a consort to commit suicide was a crime equal to treason. I let out a quiet sigh. Consort Liang had left decisively, but beyond those palace walls, her entire family would be implicated. At first, I thought this was simply a tragedy coming to an end. But then, a single innocent sentence from the crown prince sent cold sweat cascading down my back. He said, "Consort Liang. Is she like mother too? Sleeping and never waking up again? She said she would make pineapple cakes for me. Why did she break her promise?" That's right, Consort Liang had always been fond of the crown prince. When she saw him enjoy the food she made, she would even light up with delight. So why would she suddenly choose death? Her status was far above mine, yet she had disappeared without a sound. Even in death, she could not escape condemnation, and I was only a lowly Marin. I looked at the crown prince, uncertain whether his words were merely childish innocence, Or carried some hidden meaning, or perhaps, someone was using his mouth to send me a warning. After Consort Liang's death, everyone assumed the crown prince would be raised by noble Consort Li. When noble Consort Li came to visit him, her expression was full of barely concealed triumph. Yet unexpectedly, the emperor issued a decree. Crown Prince Xiao Yuanyu was formally established as crown prince, and for the time being, placed under the care of the Empress Dowager. As for me, as the crown prince's biological aunt, I was granted permission to visit Sinang Palace at any time. Noble Consort Li clenched her teeth, yet still forced a smile. I heard that after returning to her palace, she fell ill, whether it was from anger. No one could say. I could not help but feel a sense of relief. Fortunately, Shu had prepared everything in advance. Otherwise, with my low rank as a mere Marin, I would never have been able to contend with a noble consort. The more I thought about it, the more I admired her. She had once said she would make the crown prince the heir, and now, she had truly accomplished it. For the first time, I clearly felt the violent undercurrents hidden within this deep palace. The eternal lamps in Fengyi Palace had burned for 27 days and nights. According to tradition, the mourning period had already passed. Yet each day, the emperor returned the green nameplates untouched, never once mentioning the matter of favoring the harem. The court officials were thrown into turmoil. The harem cannot remain empty for long. The foundation of the nation must not be shaken. Rarely angered, the emperor finally spoke coldly. The coffin has not yet grown cold. 3 years of mourning, there is no need to question this. The old ministers had no choice but to seek an audience with the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager brought me along to the Imperial study. Before the gathered ministers, she wept. I have failed the ancestors. Then she signaled to me. I stepped forward. Your Majesty, I said softly, my sister knows your Majesty's deep affection. But while she lived, she was always virtuous and kind. She would never wish to see you neglect the harem because of her. Using filial piety as pressure, the Empress Dowager forced the emperor to yield. In the end, 3 months replaced 3 years. The harem erupted into life once more, especially the newly entered consorts, each dressed in dazzling splendor. I alone walked toward Sinang Palace. Looking at the innocent crown prince, I spoke earnestly to the Empress Dowager. Your Majesty, I request to withdraw my green nameplate and copy scriptures in mourning for my elder sister for 1 year. Her gaze softened as she took my hand. Jiao Jiao. You have a good heart. Your sister did not love you in vain. She allowed me to copy scriptures in her private Buddhist hall. I was deeply grateful, but withdrawing my nameplate was merely a step back to advance. There were beauties in the palace as numerous as clouds. My appearance was not the most stunning, nor was my family background the strongest, but that did not mean I would truly refrain from competing. The emperor was a filial son. Every other day, he would visit the Empress Dowager. That meant, I would often coincidentally encounter him, and with my devotion in copying scriptures for Shu, it would surely leave a favorable impression in his heart. What I wanted was never fleeting favor. What I wanted was lasting grace. Lately, however, something felt off. The other consorts who entered the palace with me were gradually distancing themselves from me. Zhu Mama said, Little mistress, ever since the Empress Dowager suggested you withdraw your nameplate, rumors have spread throughout the palace. Some even say the Empress Dowager dislikes you. I smiled faintly. Is that so? Then let's add a little more fuel to the fire. Let the rumors reach the emperor. Zhu Mama, yes, little mistress. At that moment, Zhao Qin came to see me. She had originally been Shu's dowry maid. When Shu became pregnant, she was arranged to serve the emperor. Ninth Miss, she said in a low voice. You must be careful of noble consortly. No one knew where noble consortly had heard it from, but rumors were spreading that the Empress Dowager was raising the Crown Prince only temporarily, waiting for my rank to rise, before handing him over to me. Noble consortly had never been on good terms with the Empress. And now, she harbored even deeper resentment toward the Ninth Miss toward me. The rumor that the Empress Dowager disliked me had been deliberately spread by noble consortly. A flicker of unease rose within me. What should I do now? I had only just entered the palace. Aside from Zhu Mama, whom my stepmother had assigned to me, I had no one I could truly rely on. Though several attendants had been allocated to me, their backgrounds were unclear. None could be trusted. Zhao Qin stepped forward. Ninth Miss, do not worry too much. The Empress left 2 people for you. The 2 people Zhao Qin brought were not meant to serve at my side. They already held their own positions. What I needed were people I could command when necessary. From Sinang Palace of the Empress Dowager, before heading to the small Buddhist hall to copy scriptures, I would usually pay my respects and spend time with the Crown Prince. Today, however, Lu Mama was already waiting for me at the entrance. Marin, the Empress Dowager has instructed that you need not pay your respects today. I asked anxiously, is something wrong with the Empress Dowager? Lu Mama replied, last night, His Highness the Crown Prince dreamed of the late Empress. He cried and fussed until midnight. The Empress Dowager personally comforted him, and only returned to rest at dawn. She has asked that the scripture copying be postponed. Today, she asks you to take care of the Crown Prince. When I arrived at the side hall, the Crown Prince was already awake. Jijia, you're here. I saved your favorite lotus pastry. He held up a delicate little plate as if presenting a treasure. His eyes were still swollen, yet he forced a smile. It made one's heart ache to see. I took the pastry. It's delicious. Did you dream of your mother last night? The fragile smile on his face shattered instantly. Fearing he was too young to bear the truth, everyone in the palace had always comforted him by saying the Empress had gone far away and that if he behaved well enough, she would return. But she never did, and so, the child grew more and more uneasy, wondering if he had not been good enough, and that was why his mother refused to come back. This was not the first time he had dreamed of her. I took a bite of the pastry, washed my hands, and held his small hand. You. Birth, aging, illness, and death, these are the natural ways of the world. Zhu Mama immediately sensed my intention and frowned. Little mistress, you must not. I waved my hand, signaling her to step back. You, I continued gently, your mother loved you more than anyone in this world. But she is no longer here. She cannot come back. However, you still have the Emperor, the Empress Dowager, and me. We will all love you. And your mother, in the heavens, will always be watching over you. Seeing how well behaved you are, she will surely feel at peace. He stared at me blankly. You mean Mother will never come back? I hardened my heart and nodded. He was not yet 4 years old. In the next instant, he burst into uncontrollable sobs. Zhu Mama and the others rushed forward to comfort him, but I spoke sharply, let him cry. The commotion must have been too loud. Soon, Lu Mama returned on behalf of the Empress Dowager. I composed myself and explained the situation. Lu Mama smiled as she looked at the Crown Prince. The Empress Dowager's meaning is this: Marin is His Highness's own aunt. Naturally, she cares deeply for him. Your Highness should understand her intentions. After Lu Mama left, Yu's sobbing gradually subsided. Jejia. I still miss mother. I sighed softly, he is only a child. I cannot bear to be too harsh. If you miss your mother, then let us paint a portrait of her. Whenever you miss her in the future, you can look at it. Would that be all right? He rubbed his eyes, but I don't draw well. Then I will draw. You can add the colors. At last, he managed a small smile. Okay. I had brushes and ink prepared. Carefully, I sketched Ing Shu's face. Yuan Yu watched intently. When I finished, I taught him how to mix pigments and apply color. He held the brush with utmost care, placing each stroke slowly and seriously. In the end, the portrait was completed. I ordered it to be sent to the Imperial workshop for mounting and framing with care. Afterward, Yuan Yu yawned repeatedly. It was clear he had not slept well the previous night. I called for a young palace maid to play with him until after lunch, then sent him to rest. From that day on, he grew closer and more dependent on me. I pitied the child who had lost his mother. In everything, I paid extra attention, caring for him with double the effort. Gradually, whenever I visited Sinang Palace, copying scriptures became secondary. Most of my time and thoughts were devoted to Yuan Yu. The side hall was often filled with the sound of a child's laughter, or my gentle voice teaching him to read. The Empress Dowager was very pleased. The agreed 3 months passed quickly. It was said that Xian Fei, Su Kairan, and Gu Baolin had repeatedly sent gifts to noble consort Li's palace. One low-ranking Zheng Yuna had even personally gone to attend to noble consort Li during her illness. The first to receive the emperor's favor was Su Caranth, one with the strongest family background, second only to the highest ranks. Yet the emperor showed little interest in the harem. His visits were few and far between. On the other hand, at Sinang Palace, I often coincidentally encountered him. One evening after dinner, the Empress Dowager smiled and said, "I am growing old. Fortunately, Marin Yu is here to help care for Yuan Yu. I have heard the rumors in the harem. The emperor cannot allow this child to suffer grievances." She then signaled for the emperor to escort me back. Changchun Palace was not far from Sinang Palace. I suggested we walk. The emperor said quietly, "You have suffered. If there is anything difficult, tell me." I put on an innocent expression. "I have suffered nothing, Your Majesty. Only there is one thing I wish to request." His brows lifted slightly, as if expecting this, but instead, my eyes grew moist. "My sister is gone. Fani Palace remains tightly closed. I only wish to ask Your Majesty to allow me to visit it from time to time." His expression softened. "I permit it. Jiao Jiao. Do not grieve too deeply." While Ing Shu was still alive, all she ever wished for was that I would live safely and happily. He did not call me Marin Yu. Instead, he called me Jiao Jiao, just as my elder sister once did. I wiped the corner of my eyes and spoke softly. "Elder sister has always loved me dearly. When I caught a chill as a child, she stayed by my side for 3 days and nights. If one must say it plainly, this life of mine was saved by her." The emperor seemed intrigued and immediately asked about the past. I chose what could be told and recounted it slowly. By the time we neared Changchun Palace, he still showed no intention of leaving, and then he asked. I bit my lip lightly. "Your Majesty, you should return and rest. When there is time another day, I will continue telling you about my sister." A flicker of surprise crossed his face. Perhaps this was the first time a consort had urged him to leave, and in his eyes a trace more interest appeared. This is the first time I'd been urged away. Knowing the moment was not yet ripe, I gently reminded him, I once promised to observe mourning for my sister for a year. He waved his hand, very well. The next day, the emperor sent many rewards to me, at the same time, for my efforts in caring for the crown prince. I was promoted from Marin to Pin and moved into the main hall of Changchun Palace. I became the first among the new consorts to receive a promotion. With a single gesture from the emperor, all the rumors in the palace vanished like smoke. On Yingshu's birthday, I brought with me a handwritten rebirth sutra and went to Fengyi Palace to hold a memorial. A light rain began to fall. I sent Zhu Mama back to fetch a cloak. Little mistress. You mustn't, she said anxiously. Fengyi Palace is deserted. I cannot leave you here alone. I smiled faintly. Go. I have my own plans. Not long after Zhu Mama left, the grand doors of Fengyi Palace were pushed open. The emperor stepped inside. I deliberately showed just the right amount of surprise. Your Majesty still remembers my sister's birthday. My sister was fortunate to have married you. It is only a pity she has already gone. Seeing me burning sutras for her, the emperor waved for the guards to withdraw. Then he knelt beside me and burned the scriptures together with me. Watching the flickering flames, he asked softly, Jiao Jiao. Do you miss your sister? My eyes shimmered with tears. Of course I do. Does your Majesty also miss her? In past years, on her birthday, she would always summon me into the palace. Back then, I felt that everything in the palace was wonderful. But now that she is gone, this deep palace feels unbearably cold. The emperor's voice grew hoarse. Yes. Without Yingshu, this winter is far too cold. The change came in an instant. A cat darted out of nowhere. Startled, I turned pale. The emperor held my shoulders, pulling me aside. Perhaps sensing my trembling, he removed his cloak and draped it over me. I will take you back. Jiao Jiao, go. Yingshu loved you dearly. She would not want you to fall ill from fear while offering sacrifices. I insisted on finishing burning all the scriptures before returning with him to Changchun Palace. Along the way, we encountered Zhu Mama hurrying back with the cloak. I took it and placed it over the emperor's shoulders instead. Your Majesty, you should wear this, lest you catch cold. Back in Changchun Palace, I stepped into the warm chamber, holding a hand warmer before finally feeling heat return to my body. I looked at him. Your Majesty may return to rest now. Zhu Mama let out a soft, disapproving sound. Little mistress. The emperor merely smiled and waved it off. It's fine. He did not leave immediately. My fingers traced the plum blossom carvings on the hand warmer. In the past, my sister feared the cold greatly. Every winter, she could only sleep while holding a hand warmer. One year, there was not enough charcoal. She gave hers to me. And because of that, she fell gravely ill. At this, I lifted my gaze toward him, lashes glistening, tears yet to fall. Tomorrow, your Majesty still has court. It would be best to return early and rest. The emperor sighed softly and finally left. On the 1st and 15th of each month, it had once been customary for the entire harem to pay respects to the empress. After her passing, they should have paid respects to the empress dowager, but she preferred peace and quiet, so the matter was handed over to noble consort Li. By the time I arrived, most had already taken their seats. The moment I sat down, Su Zhao lifted her delicate brows and deliberately raised her voice. Oh? Consort Yu has arrived. I heard that Marin Yu went to great lengths to coincidentally encounter His Majesty. And after much effort, finally managed to invite him to Changchun Palace. She clicked her tongue, dragging out her tone, and yet His Majesty didn't even stay the night. How pitiful. Though she spoke of pity, the curve of her lips was filled with mockery. I lifted my gaze toward noble consort Li, seated at the head. She sipped her tea leisurely, as if she had heard nothing at all. Beside me, Zhao Qin looked anxious, wanting to speak, but I gave a slight shake of my head. Then I turned to Su Zhaoyi, and covered my lips with a soft smile. Su Zhaoyi truly shows concern for me, I said lightly, but I must remind you of one thing, elder sister within this palace, aside from the records of the Bureau of Attendant Affairs, who would dare to casually discuss His Majesty's movements. I cut her off mid-sentence. Su Zhaoyi lost face immediately and turned to complain to noble consort Li. Marinyu shows me no respect at all. She cannot distinguish between ranks, she does not place me in her eyes. I did not yield. Your ladyship, it is precisely because I remember the rules of hierarchy that I reminded Su Zhaoyi. If His Majesty were to learn of this matter, I fear even elder sister would not remain unscathed. Su Zhaoyi was furious, yet had no way to retaliate. Even if she truly had informants near the emperor, she could not admit it openly. Noble consort Li set down her teacup and smiled faintly as she looked between us. Enough. Su Zhaoyi, you are a senior in the palace, why lower yourself to argue with a young girl? If nothing else, you should show some respect for the late empress. With noble consort Li stepping in, the matter was temporarily settled. After leaving her palace, Zhu Mama was so anxious she rubbed her hands together. Little mistress, you were far too reckless today. I casually broke off a branch of apricot blossoms reaching over the palace wall and said indifferently, that won't do. My sister once told me within this deep palace, a bodhisattva's kindness is no match for an asura's methods. Oh. And who intends to become an asura? A flash of bright yellow robes appeared beyond the vermilion wall. At some unknown moment, the emperor had already been standing at the turn of the corridor. Zhu Mama hurriedly knelt and tugged at my skirt. The emperor waved a hand. I have known Jiao Jiao since childhood. There is no need for such formalities. You may withdraw. After Zhu Mama stepped back, he said, that old servant is always restraining you. Shall I remove her for you? I will assign you a few more obedient maids and palace attendants. He said it deliberately. Zhu Mama had not gone far, her steps faltered when she heard. I felt a quiet satisfaction. The emperor had begun to notice Zhu Mama, which meant he had begun to notice me. I shook my head. Thank you, Your Majesty, but Zhu Mama was assigned by my stepmother. It is a gift from an elder, I dare not refuse it. I will discipline her well. Besides, my allowance is already barely enough to support everyone. If I add more servants, it will not be sufficient. The emperor sighed. Very well. If you feel wronged, come to the Imperial study and find me. You are Ing Shu's younger sister. I promised her that you would live comfortably in this palace. That last sentence, I did not know whether he spoke it to me or to himself, but clearly, Zhu Mama had heard every word. Back at Changchun Palace, Zhu Mama immediately fell to her knees. This servant thanks little mistress for sparing my life. From now on, I will follow your commands above all else. I personally helped her up. Through my fingertips, I could feel her trembling. Ma, please rise. In this deep palace, you and I are nothing more than pitiful people struggling to survive. From now on, simply fulfill your duties and manage things thoroughly for me. I will protect you. Zhu Mama burst into tears, kowtowing repeatedly. after this incident, she seemed like a completely different person. No longer did she say, "Little mistress must not." Instead, she would analyze the pros and cons for me, allowing me to decide. The emperor had opened the path for me to the imperial study, yet I had never once set foot there. When the Empress Dowager wished to leave the palace for Buddhist worship, she entrusted the crown prince to me. I did not dare show the slightest negligence. And yet, it took only a brief midday rest for everything to go wrong. Lumama came stumbling in, her face pale as death. "Something terrible has happened. The crown prince is missing." My heart nearly stopped. "Utugo, report immediately to noble consort Li and His Majesty. Zhu Mama, take everyone in Changchun Palace and seal the grounds. Search every corner. Leave no place unchecked. Lu Mama, take people to search the nearby paths." I did not trust anyone. I personally checked every well within Changchun Palace, nothing unusual. Then I ran straight toward the artificial river nearest the Imperial Garden, the closest water source to Changchun Palace. From afar, through the drooping willow branches, I saw it, a small figure crouching by the water's edge, his tiny hands stretched forward, reaching for a small wooden boat drifting on the surface. I dared not call out, afraid of startling him into falling. I could only approach quietly. At the moment his body wavered, I rushed forward, wrapping my arms tightly around his fragile frame. "Yuanyu, why did you come here alone?" He pointed toward the water. My heart had not yet settled. How could I dare let go? I certainly could not risk retrieving the boat. I could only coax him gently, "Be good. Let's go back to the palace first. Everyone is looking for you." They were all worried. Before we even stepped into Changchun Palace, the noise surged like boiling water. "The crown prince has been found. Consort Yu has brought him back." Palace maids and eunuchs ran to report the news. By then, Changchun Palace was already filled with people. The emperor stood there, his expression cold. Noble consort Li stood beside him, her brows slightly furrowed. "Yuanyu knew he had caused trouble, Father Emperor. I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have snuck out." Su Zhaoyi's voice turned sharp and cutting. "Consort Yu, is this how you care for the crown prince on behalf of the Empress Dowager? On behalf of His Majesty? The crown prince is the foundation of the nation, yet you allowed His Highness to slip out of the palace. If something had truly happened, what would you have done?" All eyes burning, pressing, suffocating fell upon me in an instant. Zhao Qin, Lu Mama, and Zhu Mama all looked at me with worry. Yuanyu, seeing me being accused, clutched at the emperor's dragon robe, his voice trembling with sobs. "It's not Jiejia's fault. It's my fault. I shouldn't have chased that colorful butterfly to the riverside. I shouldn't have tried to pick up the little wooden boat when I saw it floating. A colorful butterfly, in the dead of winter, where would such a butterfly come from? It was clearly a scheme." The emperor gathered Yuanyu into his arms, his voice firm. "Enough. Consort Yu was negligent, but she personally brought the crown prince back. Her courage offsets her fault. After such a fright, Consort Yu must take careful care of the crown prince." He paused, his gaze turning cold. "The guards of Changchun Palace and the attendants serving the crown prince leave no one unchecked. Consort Yu, this incident occurred within your palace. I entrust this matter to you. Whoever was negligent will be severely punished without exception." Su Zhaoyi was visibly unwilling to accept this, yet she did not dare act rashly. Noble consort Li's face had gone pale. As the highest-ranking consort, the emperor had not entrusted the matter to her. It was clear. He had begun to suspect her. After the emperor left, eunuch Chen, who served at his side, remained behind. "Little mistress, His Majesty instructed this servant to remind you you may begin your investigation with the colorful butterfly and the small wooden boat. After seeing him off, Yuan Yu looked up at me expectantly. Jijia, can you help me retrieve the little wooden boat? I crouched down. Yuan Yu, Zhu Mama has already sent people to retrieve it. But Zhu Mama was one step too late. By the time she arrived, the wooden boat had already disappeared. Fortunately, my memory was sharp, and my drawing skills were passable. I immediately sketched the appearance of the small wooden boat and instructed Zhu Mama to send it to Qin Zhao, commander of the Imperial Guards. Tell him this object concerns the safety of the Crown Prince. He must investigate it thoroughly. Qin Zhao was one of the 2 people Ling Shu had secretly left for me through Zhao Qin. On the surface, his position made him perfectly suited to investigate. Privately, I trusted him completely. For the next step, I ordered people to go to the Imperial workshop, tell them the Crown Prince desired this wooden boat, and that no effort should be spared. Within 3 days, they must produce an identical one. The bigger the commotion, the better. The one hiding in the shadows feared that others would see that wooden boat. Then I would do the opposite. I would make sure everyone saw it. As for the emperor entrusting me with managing the attendants of Changchun Palace and those around the Crown Prince, my opportunity to establish authority had arrived. My gaze turned cold as ice. Without mercy, 2 hidden agents, already in collusion with outsiders, were dragged out and beaten to death on the spot. Cries echoed through the palace. Several others, with suspicious backgrounds and shifty eyes, were also dealt with under various pretexts. Some were demoted, some were expelled. Everything was handled cleanly and decisively. The empty positions were filled with my own trusted people. Inside and outside Changchun Palace, it became as secure as iron walls. Qin Zhao acted swiftly. Within a day, a secret report reached me. Su Zhaoyi's father had a retainer skilled in controlling bees and attracting butterflies capable of luring them even in winter, and Su Zhaoyi's senior maid, was that man's daughter. I had Su brought to the Office of Discipline for interrogation. Su Zhaoyi rushed over immediately. Ruo Jiao. Su is my person. What are you? Just a lowly consort, and you dare touch the chief maid of my palace? Her beautiful face twisted with fury. I have never heard of Su knowing any such trick of attracting butterflies. On what basis do you make such accusations? Just because her father knows such skills, must she know them as well? This is slander, blatant slander. I sat calmly in my seat. Elder sister, there is no need to be so agitated. By His Majesty's decree, I am in charge of investigating the incident of the Crown Prince nearly falling into the water. I have merely invited Miss Su to cooperate and clarify the truth. If elder sister is dissatisfied with His Majesty's will, surely you know the way to the Imperial study. Su Zhaoyi lifted her chin defiantly. Ruo Jiao, stop using His Majesty to suppress me. Fine, you want an interrogation? I will sit right here and watch. I want to see how the Office of Discipline conducts torture, extracts confessions, and abuses its power in broad daylight. Zhu Mama leaned in and whispered, Little mistress, Su Zhaoyi is known to fiercely protect her people. If she stays, I fear it will affect Suhi's confession. I smiled faintly. It doesn't matter. If she wishes to watch, then let her watch. My voice suddenly turned stern. Elder sister, remember the palace rules well. During the hearing, you are not to speak, nor act rashly. Otherwise, the Office of Discipline has the authority to have you removed. Contrary to Zhu Mama's expectations, Even with Su Zhao-yi staring intently throughout the interrogation, Su-hee still confessed. She admitted it was Su Zhao-yi who had ordered her to carry out the act. Su Zhao-yi resided at the western terrace of Jingyi Pavilion, a position that overlooked Changchun Palace in its entirety. From that high platform, Su-hee manipulated the butterflies, luring the crown prince away. Kneeling on the ground, her voice hoarse, Su-hee said, "It was all because her ladyship was jealous. Jealous that consort Yu alone held His Majesty's favor." Witnesses, testimony, motive, location, everything aligned perfectly, everything made sense. The director of the Office of Discipline let out a breath of relief and reached for his brush, ready to finalize the verdict. But Su Zhao-yi suddenly cried out in protest. "Su-hee, O traitorous wretch! I treated you like a sister. You never once told me you knew how to control butterflies. When did I ever order you to commit such a monstrous act? You told me of your hardships. I doubled your monthly allowance every month. Why would you frame me like this?" Su-hee suddenly raised her head to look at Su Zhao-yi. Her lips trembled, as if she had countless words to say, yet she forced them back. In the end, she bit her lower lip and said nothing more. That hesitation made me certain there was something deeper behind this. "Director, do not be in such haste. Su Zhao-yi is of the 9 consorts. Her status is noble. This matter must be reported to His Majesty for a final decision." I did not immediately enter the palace to present the case. Instead, carrying my doubts, I returned to Changchun Palace. Soon, the overseer of the Imperial workshop presented 10 exquisitely crafted small wooden boats. "Little mistress, we dared not delay your orders. Each one was made according to your drawing. We even sourced the finest materials from Linlang Pavilion outside the palace. I summoned you on you. The boat you wanted is here." His eyes lit up with delight. He bounced excitedly, unable to contain his joy. I smiled and guided him gently. "Your father often says that siblings should love one another deeply. With such a novel toy, would you like to share it with your brothers and sisters?" He agreed happily. Immediately, he ordered that 1 boat be sent to the 2nd princess and 1 to the 3rd prince. When I went to pay respects to noble consort Li, I saw the crown prince already playing with his siblings. I quietly observed the reactions of the consorts present. The 2nd princess's mother was Su Zhaorong, of the same rank as Su Zhao-yi. She doted entirely on her daughter, Man Yuan. Every day, she personally prepared various delicacies for her. Her temperament was gentle, and she often sent snacks to Yu Sivan when we had just entered the palace. The 3rd prince's mother was Qian Xiaorong. She had little presence in the harem. Originally a palace maid, she had been of the lowest rank, but fortune favored her. After a single night, she bore the 3rd prince and was promoted to Xiaorong. 3rd rank. The 3rd prince was not yet half a year old. By rights, he should have been raised by a higher-ranking consort, but when he was born, Ying Shu's health had already been failing, and so the matter had been delayed. As if casually, I said, "Someone bring a wooden basin with some water. Let the children play properly." Warm water was brought in. The surface shimmered as the small boats floated upon it. Laughter filled the hall. Noble consort Li sat at the head. Her complexion was slightly pale. She smiled as she watched the children play. But when her gaze swept over the small wooden boats, it paused just for a fleeting moment. "Consort Yu is still young," she said gently, her tone softer than usual. "Her heart is still childlike. Even toys are prepared with such carrots. No wonder the crown prince depends on her so much." On the surface, it sounded like praise, but beneath her words, I heard something else, that I cared only for play, and lacked ambition. I smiled faintly. "Your ladyship may not know these boats are exactly like the one the crown prince saw by the riverside that day. Letting them play in a basin is far better than being lured to the riverbank." In an instant, the entire hall fell silent. Su Zhao-yi, who was usually the most vocal, now sat stiffly below, as if chilled to the bone. Hearing my words, she glanced between me and noble consort Li. Then suddenly, her eyes flashed. "The boat. The boat is the key." Like grasping the last straw, Su Zhao-yi cried out, "The real wooden boat hasn't been found yet. Its origins remain unknown. On what basis can you conclude it was me? Even if my palace has a high terrace, what truly led the crown prince to the river was that boat." At last, she was not entirely foolish, she was desperate. With a sudden lurch, she rushed toward the children. Amid the shocked cries of the consorts, she snatched a wooden boat from the third prince's small hands. "The boat, this is the key. And its origin, where did it come from?" When Shu was still alive, all she ever wished for was for me to live in peace and happiness. He did not call me Consort Ngu. Instead, he called me Jiao Jiao, just as Shu once had. I wiped the corners of my eyes and said softly, "Elder sister has always loved me dearly. When I caught a cold as a child, she stayed by my bedside for 3 days and 3 nights. If one must speak honestly, this life of mine was saved by elder sister." The emperor showed interest at once and asked about the past. So I chose only the things I could say aloud and told him those stories. By the time we were nearly at Changchun Palace, the emperor still showed no intention of leaving, and after that? I bit my lip lightly. "Your Majesty, you should return and rest now. The next time there is leisure, this concubine will continue telling your Majesty stories about elder sister." A flicker of surprise crossed his face. Perhaps this was the first time in his life a consort had urged him to leave. Yet instead of displeasure, a trace more curiosity appeared in his eyes. "This is the first time anyone has ever hurried Jin away." Knowing the timing was not yet ripe, I reminded him gently, "This concubine once promised to observe mourning for elder sister for 1 year." He waved his hand dismissively. "Very well." The next day, the emperor sent down many rewards to me. At the same time, in recognition of my care for the crown prince, he promoted me from Marin to pin rank consort and allowed me to move into the main hall of Changchun Palace. I became the very first among the newly entered consorts to receive a promotion. With just one gesture from the emperor, all the rumors swirling through the palace vanished like smoke. On Shu's birthday, I brought a handwritten copy of the rebirth mantra to Fengyi Palace to hold a memorial for her. Unexpectedly, a fine drizzle began to fall. I sent Zhu Mama back to Changchun Palace to fetch a cloak. She hurriedly objected, "Little mistress, you mustn't." Fengyi Palace was desolate and silent. "This servant is uneasy leaving little mistress here alone." I smiled faintly. "Go, Mama. I have my own plans." About half a quarter hour after Zhu Mama left, the great doors of Fengyi Palace were pushed open. The emperor stepped inside. I deliberately arranged my expression into the proper measure of surprise. "Your Majesty still remembers elder sister's birthday." Elder sister was fortunate indeed to have married your Majesty. It is only a pity she has already left us. Seeing that I was burning prayer scriptures for Shu, the emperor waved for the guards to withdraw. Then he sat beside me and burned the scriptures together with me. Staring into the flickering flames, he asked, "Jiao Jiao, do you miss your sister?" My eyes reddened. "Of course I do. Very much." "Does your Majesty also miss elder sister?" In previous years, on her birthday, elder sister would always summon this concubine into the palace. At that time, I felt everything in the palace was wonderful. Now that elder sister is gone, even this deep palace feels cold and empty. The emperor's voice also carried a trace of hoarseness. Yes. Without Shu, this winter feels unbearably cold. Then everything happened in an instant. A cat darted out from nowhere. I turned pale with fright. The emperor caught my shoulders and pulled me aside. Perhaps sensing my trembling, he removed his cloak and draped it over my shoulders. I will escort you back. Jiao Jiao, return now. Shu loved you dearly. She surely would not want you frightening yourself sick over a memorial. I stubbornly insisted on finishing burning every last scripture before returning to Changchun Palace with him. On the way, we encountered Jumama hurrying back with the cloak. I took it from her and placed it over the emperor's shoulders. Your Majesty, please wear this, lest you catch a chill. Back at Changchun Palace, I entered the warm chamber and held a hand warmer before finally feeling warmth return to my body. I looked at him. Your Majesty may return to rest now. Zhu Mama gave a small cry of disapproval, little mistress, but the emperor only smiled and waved it off. It's fine. He still did not leave immediately. My fingers lightly traced the carved plum blossom pattern on the hand warmer. In the past, elder sister feared the cold terribly. Every winter, she could only fall asleep while holding a hand warmer. One year, there was not enough charcoal to go around. Elder sister gave hers to me instead, and because of that, she fell gravely ill. At this point, I lifted my gaze to him, my lashes shimmering with unshed tears. Tomorrow, your Majesty still has court. It would be better to return early and rest. The emperor let out a soft sigh before finally departing. The 1st and 15th of every month were originally the days when the entire harem paid respects to the empress. After the empress's passing, they should have gone to pay respects to the empress dowager instead. But the empress dowager desired peace and quiet, so she handed this duty over to noble consort Li. By the time I arrived, most people were already seated. The moment I sat down, Su Zhao Yi raised her delicate brows and deliberately lifted her voice. Oh? Consort Ngu has arrived. This concubine heard that Consort Ngu went through so much trouble engineering chance encounters with His Majesty, and after so much effort, finally managed to invite His Majesty to Changchun Palace. TSK, she deliberately dragged out the sound, her eyes full of mockery and pity. And yet His Majesty still didn't stay the night. How truly pitiful. Though her lips said pitiful, the curl at their corners was full of ridicule. I lifted my gaze toward noble consort Li, seated at the place of honor. She calmly sipped her tea as though she had heard nothing at all. Beside me, Zhao Qin looked at me anxiously, clearly wanting to speak. I gave the slightest shake of my head. Then I turned toward Su Zhao Yi and covered my lips with a smile. Su Zhao Yi truly is concerned for this concubine. However, I must remind elder sister Zhao Yi of one thing. In this palace, aside from the records kept by the Office of Bedchamber Affairs, who dares casually discuss His Majesty's movements? With that single sentence, I cut her off cold. Su Zhao Yi instantly lost face and immediately turned to complain to noble consort Li. Consort Ngu truly has no regard for this concubine. She knows neither rank nor propriety, and does not place this concubine in her eyes at all. But I still did not yield. Noble consort, please judge fairly. It is precisely because this concubine remembers the rules of hierarchy and etiquette that I reminded elder sister Zhao Yi. If His Majesty were to hear of this matter, I fear elder sister would not fare well either. Su Zhao Yi was furious, but helpless. Even if she truly had bribed those around the emperor, she could never say it aloud. Noble consort Li set down her teacup and smiled at the two of us. Enough. Su Zhao Yi, you have been in the palace for years. Why bother quarreling with a little girl? At the very least, you should give some face to the late empress. Only after noble consort Li intervened did the matter temporarily settle. After leaving her palace, Zhu Mama rubbed her hands anxiously. Little mistress was too reckless today. I casually snapped off an apricot blossom branch poking over the palace wall and replied calmly, that won't do. Elder sister once told Maine this deep palace, the heart of a bodhisattva is worth less than the methods of an asura. Oh. And who intends to become an asura? A flash of bright yellow robes appeared by the crimson wall. At some point, the emperor had already been standing at the corridor corner. Zhu Mama hurriedly dropped to her knees. Tugging lightly at my skirt as a signal, the emperor waved his hand. Zhen has known Jiao Jiao since childhood. There is no need for these formalities. You may withdraw. Zhu Mama stepped away. The emperor asked, that old servant is forever restraining you. Would you like Zhen to dispose of her for you? Zhen can bestow a few obedient mamas and palace maids upon you. He did it deliberately. Zhu Mama had not gone far, and upon hearing those words, her steps visibly faltered. Secretly, I rejoiced. The emperor had begun paying attention to Zhu Mama. Which meant he had begun paying attention to me. I shook my head. Thank you, Your Majesty, but Zhu Mama was bestowed by my legal mother. It is a gift from an elder, and this concubine does not dare refuse. This concubine will discipline her properly. Besides, this concubine's monthly allowance is only just enough to divide among those already here. If Your Majesty bestows even more maids and mamas, I truly won't have enough silver to pay everyone. The emperor sighed. Very well. If you suffer grievances, come directly to the Imperial study to find Zhen. You are Ying Shu's younger sister. Zhen promised her that you would live comfortably in this palace. The final sentence sounded less like it was spoken to me, and more as if he were speaking to himself. Clearly, Zhu Mama heard those words too. After returning to Changchun Palace, Zhu Mama dropped to her knees. This servant thanks little mistress for sparing my life. From today onward, this servant will place little mistress's commands above all else. I personally helped Zhu Mama to her feet. At my fingertips, I could feel her trembling faintly. Mama, rise quickly. In this deep palace, you and I are merely pitiful people struggling for a path to survival. In the future, simply fulfill your duties well and handle matters thoroughly for me. I will protect you. Tears streamed down Zhu Mama's face as she repeatedly kowtowed in gratitude. After that incident, it was as if she had become an entirely different person. No longer did she constantly say, "Little mistress cannot do that." Instead, she carefully analyzed the pros and cons for me, leaving the final decision in my hands. The emperor had opened the path to the Imperial study for me, but I had never once stepped foot there. The Empress Dowager wished to leave the palace to worship at a temple and entrusted the crown prince to my care. I did not dare relax in the slightest, yet all it took was a single midday nap. Lu Mama came stumbling in, face pale as death. This is bad. The crown prince is missing. Fear shot through me so violently that my soul nearly left my body. You too, go report immediately to noble consort Li and his majesty. Zhu Mama led everyone from Changchun Palace and seal the palace. Search every corner. Do not overlook a single place. Lu Mama, lead people to search the roads near the palace. Still uneasy, I personally inspected every well in Changchun Palace. Nothing seemed amiss. Then I ran straight toward the artificial river nearest the Imperial Garden, the closest water source to Changchun Palace. In the distance, through gaps in drooping willow branches, I clearly saw that tiny figure crouched by the riverbank, his small hand stretched outward, trying desperately to reach a little wooden boat bobbing on the water. I dared not call out, afraid I would startle him and cause him to fall, so I could only approach silently. The instant his balance shifted and his body wobbled, I rushed forward and wrapped both arms tightly around his thin little body. Yuan Yu, why are you here alone? Yuan Yu pointed stubbornly toward the boat in the water. My heartbeat had not yet steadied. How could I dare let go? Even less could I risk trying to retrieve the boat, so I could only coax him. Be good, Yuan Yu. Let us return to the palace first. Everyone is looking for you. Everyone is worried. Let's go back first. Before we had even crossed the gates of Changchun Palace, an uproar boiled over like scalding water. The crown prince has been found. Consort Ngu has brought the crown prince back. Palace maids and eunuchs rushed off to report the news. By then, Changchun Palace was already filled with people. The emperor's expression was icy. Noble Consort Li stood beside him, brows slightly furrowed. Yuan Yu knew he had caused trouble. Father Emperor, your son knows he was wrong. I should not have secretly run outside. Su Zhaoyi's voice immediately turned sharp and shrill. Consort Ngu, is this how you care for the crown prince on behalf of the Empress Dowager and His Majesty? The crown prince is the foundation of the nation. Yet you allowed His Highness to run out of the palace. If anything had truly happened, what would you have done then? On the very day Yuan Yu was born. She died with her eyes unclosed. The pain tore through me to the very core. Nonsense. The emperor shouted instinctively, but when he saw my swollen, tear-filled eyes, his voice lowered at last. The passing of the deceased is no small matter. Zhen will have this investigated thoroughly. He immediately gave the order. Men, summon Qin Zhao. When Qin Zhao arrived, I took out the rosewood box from my sleeve and handed it to him openly, without the slightest attempt to conceal it. This palace has obtained some evidence. Perhaps it may be of use to Commander Qin. The emperor stared intently at Qin Zhao. 3 days. Zhen wants the truth laid bare. Qin Zhao bowed deeply. This subject obeys the decree. After Qin Zhao withdrew, the emperor suddenly pulled me into his arms, his hand tightening around my waist. Jiao Jiao truly has no reservations at all. You even dared to pass something to Qin Zhao right in front of Zhen. I glanced at him. Is your Majesty jealous? I had done it deliberately to let him see that I had nothing to hide. Before the moment could settle, the doors of Li Palace were pushed open again. Noble Consort Li lay half reclined on her bed, once more playing her old trick, her face deathly pale, her frail body trembling, and that familiar act of coughing up blood, as though she were terminally ill. I did not wait for the emperor to react. My voice turned ice cold as I snapped. How many years have you been acting this farce, noble Consort Li? This so-called blood you've been vomiting, what exactly is it? Imperial Physician Lu. Imperial Physician Lu's face turned utterly bloodless. Under the emperor's silent permission, he stepped forward, trembling. He dipped a silk cloth into the blood on the ground, examined it carefully, then brought it to his nose. Your Majesty. This substance is vermilion in color, slightly oily in scent. It is mixed with rouge and honey. There is absolutely no trace of the metallic smell of real blood. For all these years, the blood noble Consort Li has vomited. has been false. Deceived for so long, the emperor's humiliation turned instantly into explosive fury. Bang! His kick landed squarely against her chest. Before she could even cry out, noble consortly was sent flying like a kite with its string cut. This time, real blood burst from her mouth. Amid the shocked gazes of everyone present, noble consortly suddenly lifted her head. From within her sleeve, she drew a gleaming dagger and lunged straight toward me with vicious intent. Roa Jiao, you wretched bitch. If I cannot live, you will be buried with me. Consort Ngu, be careful. Su Zhao Yi cried out sharply, but how could I possibly be careful in time? There's no way to dodge. In that instant between life and death, a shadow flashed past like a ghost. It was Qin Zhao. He shoved me aside and kicked noble consort Li away in one swift motion. The emperor was a step too slow, only managed to catch me as I stumbled. But as noble consort Li's pupils began to scatter, her blood-smeared lips twisted into a grotesque, venomous smile. Your Majesty, your precious consort Ngu, and Commander Qin Zhao have long been having an affair. With that final malicious sentence, she collapsed, her last breath gone. Even in death, she still struck at me. The emperor slowly turned his head, his gaze shifted back and forth between me and Qin Zhao. Consort Ngu, what exactly is the relationship between you and Qin Zhao? A surge of terror and humiliation flooded through me, nearly overwhelming me. My body trembled violently, but this was not the time to fall apart. I forced myself to steady. This concubine has been wronged. Those words from noble consort Li before her death were slander. There is nothing improper between this concubine and Commander Qin. Beside me, Qin Zhao's face had gone pale. He immediately slammed his forehead to the ground. This subject is terrified. This subject would never dare overstep propriety. Such accusations are intolerable to heaven and earth. Qin Zhao had once been my sister's childhood companion. They had even been betrothed. Later, when the current emperor was still the seventh prince, Shu saved his life, and from that moment, he fell in love with her at first sight. Qin Zhao and Shu could no longer be together. I had thought they had severed all ties, yet one became empress, and the other rose to commander of the Imperial Guards. To say my sister was deeply calculating would not be wrong. She broke off her engagement and walked the path to becoming empress, and yet, she still left her former lover utterly devoted to her. Even after her death, he remained loyal and served me in her stead. But at this moment, that connection could never be exposed. I could not mention his past with my sister. I could not say he appeared because of me, and I certainly could not explain why he had shown up at Li Palace where he had no reason to be and just happened to save me. Just then, a small figure burst into the hall like a cannonball. It was Crown Prince Xiao Yuanyu. Ignoring the suffocating tension, his little face was tight with urgency. Commander Qin, didn't I already make it clear to you? The safety of Father Emperor and Aunt is the most important thing. Then why is Aunt still injured like this? Is your martial skill just for show? Only then did everyone notice. My hand had been scraped, blood seeping from the wound. The Emperor's cold gaze softened slightly. Yuanyu, was it you who summoned Commander Qin? The Crown Prince puffed up proudly and nodded. Yes, it was your son. His chubby finger pointed toward a corner of the hall, where a young palace maid stood trembling in terror. Just now, your son was playing with the wooden boat and saw this palace maid acting suspiciously. After questioning her, I learned noble consort Li was hiding something. Your son was frightened. Worried Father Emperor might be in danger. Then I happened to encounter Commander Qin while he was on patrol. So I immediately ordered him to come and protect you." At this point, his tone shifted slightly, carrying a hint of dissatisfaction. "Your son thought the commander of the Imperial Guards must be highly skilled. But in the end, Aunt still got hurt." The little palace maid immediately dropped to her knees. Trembling, "Your Majesty, spare this servant's life." This servant accidentally discovered that noble consort Li had hidden a dagger. "I wished to report it, but could not find anyone by your Majesty's side. His Highness the Crown Prince is wise and perceptive." This servant did not dare conceal anything and told him everything. "I beg your Majesty to see clearly and spare this servant." The Crown Prince's words, together with the maid's testimony, instantly turned Qin Zhao's ill-timed appearance into a justified emergency order from the Crown Prince himself. I seized the moment at once, my voice choked with emotion. "Your Majesty, it is true that when we were young, Commander Qin once lived in the alley next to the Ngu residence. But since he entered the military, we have not met for many years. It was only when your Majesty ordered the investigation into the Crown Prince's near accident that we encountered each other again. If it is said that this concubine and Qin Zhao share improper feelings, then this concubine has truly been wronged. Could it be that your Majesty also believes the malicious words of noble consort Li before her death? If that is the case, then this concubine might as well follow my sister in death and prove my innocence with my life." As soon as the words left my lips, I suddenly flung Zhu Mama's hand aside and dashed toward a nearby pillar. "Your Highness, no!" Cries of alarm rang through the hall. A flash of golden robes surged forward at astonishing speed. There was no crushing pain as expected. The Emperor used his own body as a shield. I slammed straight into him, and he staggered several steps, yet his arms locked around me like iron. "Roa Jiao, I think you've been angered into confusion by that woman Li. Why is your temper so rash?" "Just now," Jin merely asked in accordance with protocol. "When did I ever say I believed the mad words of that woman before her death?" Held tightly in his embrace, I still looked utterly despairing, merely asking according to protocol. "Your Majesty's words carry the weight of gold. A single sentence, what relationship is there, is enough to leave this concubine with no place to stand in this deep palace. The poison of Li does not lie in her dagger, but in how she strikes at the human heart. Your Majesty's words are no different from handing over that poison." The Emperor's expression shifted. At last, he dismissed everyone and held me, comforting me softly. "Jiao Jiao. This matter was Jin's fault. I spoke carelessly and frightened you. What compensation does Jiao Jiao desire?" I stubbornly turned my face away. "Compensation? Does your Majesty think this concubine covets such things? This concubine finds Commander Qin's martial skills quite admirable. Why not assign him to guard Changchun Palace personally?" I knew very well that the seed of suspicion had not yet disappeared, so I deliberately pushed him into a dilemma. The more one avoids something, the more guilty one appears. Better to bring it into the open, force oneself into a dead end, then carve out a path to survival. As expected, instead of suspecting me further, he simply looked at me with a headache. Absurd. The commander of the Imperial Guards is responsible for the safety of the entire palace. How could he lower himself to stand guard at your Changchun Palace? What kind of order would that be? How would the palace remain secure? Seeing that I remained silent, tears slipping down my face, he sighed and relented slightly. If Jiao Jiao is truly concerned about Changchun Palace's safety, Zhen can have Qin Zhao dispatch an elite unit of guards to stand watch day and night. I scoffed softly, no need. Your Majesty has just questioned whether this concubine has improper relations with an outside official. And now you wish to station his subordinates at my gates day and night? This concubine does not dare. Would that not make a baseless suspicion seem justified? If your Majesty harbors doubt again, then this concubine truly would have no way to defend herself. Each word struck like needles into the emperor's heart. He fell silent, his expression flickering with discomfort and deeper guilt. I turned my back to him, no pleading, no protest. That silent accusation, that refusal of compensation, unsettled him far more than any tears or cries could have. It stirred the emperor's pride and his guilt. After a long while, he finally spoke. Very well. The guarding of Changchun Palace will be assigned to others. As for Yungu Ruojia, having protected the crown prince and conducted yourself with gentleness and propriety, from this day forth, you are promoted to noble consort rank, Gui Pin. A string of South Sea pearls and 10 bolts of shoe brocade shall be bestowed upon you to soothe your spirit. Every gaze in the palace turned toward me with envy. From the moment I entered the palace, I was made Marin. Without ever being favored in bed, I had risen 2 ranks in succession. To others, such favor was a blessing from heaven, only I knew the truth. Each promotion was nothing more than a narrow escape from disaster. In truth, that little palace maid had been sent to me by Zhao Qin. She was the second person Shu had left by my side, a piece my sister had planted beside noble consort Li. Originally, I had not intended to use her so soon, yet unexpectedly, Xiao Yuanyu had reacted so quickly. But how did he know the maid was mine, and he was only 4 years old? Was he truly that composed? The thought had barely formed when it was doused like cold water. Yuanyu was only 4. How could I use the scheming mind of the harem to judge a child? Just then, a small figure came running in. Aunt. Father Emperor has bestowed so many new and interesting things. Come quickly and see. If there's anything you like, take it first. He was beaming with excitement, his ISO-liking shoes filled with pure joy. That honest, unguarded expression made me feel a flicker of contempt for myself. I remembered, half a month ago, after the Empress Dowager returned from her temple visit, she had already given him an entire chest of precious treasures. Among the gifts, the most interesting was a small jade turtle. Its 4 legs and neck were all connected by extremely fine golden threads held in the hand. It felt almost alive. Crown Prince Xiao Yuanyu loved it dearly, holding it up to admire it over and over again. I only glanced at it a couple more times and casually praised it for being nimble and lifelike. Yet that very night, that warm and adorable little jade turtle was presented to me with both his hands. Auntie, you like this little turtle? I'll give it to you to play with. He truly cared for me. Anything good he had, he never forgot me. How could I grow distant from him just because he seemed too sensible for his age? From among the Imperial rewards, I selected 2 bolts of snow-white silk just right to make him 2 sets of undergarments. Huni's face immediately lit up with delight. Auntie, you're so good. In truth, as the crown prince, he lacked nothing in clothing. This was merely a small token of my heart. Not long after, it was the anniversary of my sister Shu's death. Before dawn, Emperor Xiao Yiming had already left the palace, leading the civil and military officials to the Imperial mausoleum to pay respects to the late empress. The harem was also required to conduct memorial rites. With noble consort Li and consort Liang gone, the highest ranking among us were Su Zhaorong and Su Zhaoyi, along with the second princess's mother, the Empress Dowager. Seeing that Su Zhaorong was the biological mother of the second princess, personally appointed her to preside over the ceremony. Su Zhaorong, who usually only busied herself with her daughter or making pastries, had never led such a grand ritual before. She wanted to decline, but the Empress Dowager also named Minuli Prometed to assist her. That day, Huni was especially quiet. Another year older, he was beginning to understand. He understood that his mother would never return. After the ceremony, when the emperor came from the Palace of Benevolence, the Empress Dowager spoke first. "Jiao Jiao, you have copied scriptures and observed mourning for your sister for a full year. Everyone has seen your devotion. Your sincerity is enough, your filial duty fulfilled. It is time to let go." Her tone shifted. "Your Majesty, Ngu noble consort's name plaque should be hung now. The living cannot always make way for the dead." The emperor replied, "I had the same intention." A faint blush rose to my cheeks. The very next day, the emperor ordered Chen Gonggang to deliver a chest full of splendid garments. His Majesty says, Chen Gonggang reported, that noble consort usually dresses too plainly. Now you should wear brighter clothes. Surely the late empress would be pleased to see it. From among them, I chose a radiant cloud-patterned brocade in purple. I would wear it on my sister's birthday. Zhu Mama's eyes flickered with an indescribable worry. "My lady, today is the late empress's memorial day, yet you wear such a noble purple robe." She hesitated, unable to finish her thought. A faint smile curved my lips. "It is precisely because it is my sister's birthday that I should wear the color she loved most. If her spirit still lingers, she will surely be pleased." A perfectly justified riazano, one could fault it. In the mirror, my brows and eyes were delicate, my figure graceful. Draped in the purple brocade, I resembled my sister from 6 or 7 parts, just as she had looked the first time the emperor saw her, though the Empress Dowager had said I no longer needed to copy scriptures. For my sister's birthday, I still wrote out a full volume of Rebirth Sutras. When I arrived, the emperor was already there. Of course, when it came to my sister, whether in life or in death, he had always been attentive. He stood before a withered chrysanthemum tree outside Fengyi Palace. Hearing footsteps, he turned, his tall figure stilled. I waved the attendants away, took the scriptures I had copied, and selected one page to place into the brazier. The emperor's gaze passed over the text, then lingered on my face, before dropping to my purple dress. 6 years now. "Jiao Jiao, when you wear this color, you truly resemble her," just as she turned back that rainy day. He seemed lost in memory. That year, when I first met Ing Shu, she stood by the riverbank in purple as well. And in the blink of an eye, 6 years have passed. My fingers trembled slightly, the scripture nearly slipped from my grasp. "I too remember the first time I met your Majesty," I said softly, though my smile carried a trace of bitterness. In the beautiful memories between him and my sister, my own memories were anything but beautiful. At that same time, my birth mother had also passed away. Perhaps the emperor remembered as well. His expression flickered with a hint of awkwardness and guilt. "Jiao Jiao, you are 16 now. You've grown into a young lady." With emotions he himself did not fully understand, he reached out and gently touched my face. Everything followed naturally. He led me into my sister's former bedchamberanto, the bed that had once belonged to her. I closed my eyes tightly. What my sister had taken, sooner or later, it would all be returned, whether it was a man or anything else. The brazier burned brightly in the room. Clothes and garments lay scattered. The purple brocade I had deliberately worn was cast aside by the emperor at the bedside. Moonlight streamed in, unable to dispel the rising heat and entanglement between us. In the height of passion, his warm breath brushed my ear, his voice low and alluring, "Jiao Jiao. Rest assured. Sooner or later, Fengyi Palace will be yours." "Will it?" I was patient, but what I wanted was far more than Fengyi Palace. The emperor favoring the late empress's younger sister and her former bedchamber thus set the entire harem ablaze with gossip. What a fox spirit! Daring to seduce his majesty in her own sister's palace, he's forgotten himself entirely. If the empress knew in the underworld, she would regret ever letting a wolf into the house by bringing Ngu Ruo Jiao into the palace. Yet at the critical moment, it was Su Zhao Yi who stepped forward to speak for me. "Enough. All of you shut your mouths. Listening to this is making my teeth ache." When the empress was still alive, she personally petitioned for Ngun noble consort's rank. Her virtue shone brightly. How could she possibly allow filthy-minded people like you to make such vile speculations? If I hear anyone else speak nonsense that tarnishes Her Majesty's legacy, don't blame the punishment board of the Palace Discipline Office for showing no mercy. Ever since noble consort Li fell from power, Su Zhao Yi had been openly showing goodwill toward me. I couldn't very well strike someone who smiled at me, so we managed to get along quite well. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to Love Stories with Lisa for more stories. Thank you so much.